Hey everyone, and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and for returning subscribers, welcome back Soul Nation. Today we're talking about Guild Wars 2, and is it worth it in 2021? Now, as far as this goes, you're going to see a lot of video game footage that I've captured over my journey to level 80 on my Necromancer, and just note that I actually don't have any level cap footage. My PC is pretty much out of hard drive space, so I believe I can actually get this video in before I have to go try and purge lots of video game footage from the archives. And the reason is and this will probably be another video on the channel, but I ordered a PC in January, and it has been a complete nightmare of an experience, and honestly I'm feeling like I'm getting a little bit scammed at this point. So no, I don't really like to try and make negative videos, but it's gotten to the point where I'm just out of options. And so anyway, if you're interested in that video, be sure to check like the top link for, I guess, the recent videos or something like that. That should be coming here a little bit. But I'm going to try to keep this completely positive, because I'm really excited to share my experience with you with Guild Wars 2. Now, to set a little bit of context here, I've actually seen a lot of negative posts about this game, and especially over the last several years, but I can't speak to that. I did watch some of these videos from other creators in the community, and I felt that they made a lot of really good points, and I'm sure that I would actually agree with more of those points if I had been playing all this time. But my experience has been just wonderful. It has been an incredible experience. So I am a social MMO player. I love seeing people and playing and interacting with them, whether it's directly or indirectly. And indirectly can be anything from the in-game economy and markets and the like. And directly means we're actively partying up, or I see them and we're actively doing a live event to help kind of, obviously succeed and win and get the loot and get the rewards. So that's kind of my background. From a historic perspective, Final Fantasy XI and Final Fantasy XIV are two of my biggest MMORPGs that I've spent the most time with. I'm going to feel like this is a little bit insulting, but I have played and tried WoW multiple times, and I just found the overall experience completely dreadful. Now, if you like WoW and that's your kind of game, that's awesome. I really hope that you have a great experience with what you play. I just feel I should be as upfront about my experience and what I've liked and what I haven't liked about the genre, so that way you can, whether you want to just completely dismiss me, or at least it helps make what I'm about to say and share have a little bit more meaning, or at least a little bit of understanding. So I'm not trying to actively insult any particular game with my, I'm just trying to set the history that I have here. So outside of that, the biggest draws, the biggest things that make this game stand out and make it impactful and make it just a great experience. The open world. I love open world leveling. Final Fantasy XI, I think, was the pinnacle. It's what got me hooked. It's what got me addicted to MMORPGs. And when I come into Guild Wars 2, it's the open world that feels like I'm actively a part of it. I think one of the flaws in MMOs that we want to see rectified at some point is how a player can actively impact the world in a meaningful way. And that's a massive challenge, both technologically, but as well for any other players coming in. So from a business level perspective, I can see that being a massive challenge. But I say that right now, playing the world, playing the events, win or lose, how that kind of triggers from one event to the next is a real big success overall, and I really enjoyed that experience. Regardless of how players might feel about underwater combat specifically, I find just the scale of going into the mountains and going down below the water, and how the zones themselves just feel so connected and real, like a real place that could exist. I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy about that, but I really do appreciate that. And I was even talking with Chris about this over on Work to Game, and I actually enjoyed the underwater combat. I enjoyed diving to the depths. And while his experience, he ended up just avoiding the underwater parts of the zone until the very last, I found myself just, here's a thing of water, I'm going to go ahead and dive down into it and see what's going on. Now, I made a lot of mistakes. Like, one of the cool things about this game is that as I made mistakes and I was annoyed by those mistakes, I asked myself, could this be better? And I was able to find the answers. One of the things is, as a necromancer with a pet build, I had my different pets on different, settings, whether I was above water or below water. And so those pets would reset, but the pets that were not on different, slots, they wouldn't reset. And all of a sudden I was like, man, that's so annoying that my pets reset every time I go above water or below water. But then ultimately I figured it out where I was like, no, just set them all in the same spot. and then the system works. And then it made sense from especially a coding perspective, especially myself being a engineer, a programmer. And I was like, okay, I got it. That makes a lot of sense. And I was annoyed by my own, I guess, ignorance at the start, but then I was able to solve that problem, and the game functioned like I thought it should function, and ultimately I was very satisfied by it. Indirect, I talked a little bit about markets. I think, especially coming from Final Fantasy XIV, even Final Fantasy XI in a sense, Final Fantasy XI set more obviously in this older time, like the code-wise, it's developed. So I don't think Final Fantasy XI is a fair comparison. I would love to see if they remade Final Fantasy XI into a competitive MMO today. But the markets themselves, when I compare Guild Wars 2 to Final Fantasy XIV, I love how I can engage with the markets wherever I'm at. And then whenever I come into a spot where I can collect either the things that I've sold or the things that I've purchased, it has that value. So it's not like I can always be selling, and then as a part of it, then engaging with it, it does draw me back into the cities or to use an item to be able to bring out my trading post vendor in this case. I really love how I can list items, how I can list buy options, and at the same time, I can also sell instantly. So as a player who doesn't really understand the value, I'm sure I probably drive market prices down slightly, but the game helps manage that. It helps facilitate that so that I don't go into like Final Fantasy XIV and just bottom out whole markets, because the game always starts you off at the vendor price. And so I think if anything else, Final Fantasy XIV would benefit greatly from the Guild Wars 2 system. Also being that this game is or does not require a subscription, this is a positive and a negative in my mind. I enjoy it because I can jump into this game. I don't feel like I have to. I don't feel like I have to remain subscribed. But then I also wonder, is the lack of a subscription leading to a lot of the content droughts, a lot of the frustration veteran players have had around the develop of this game, around the content cycle of this game itself. And so in my mind, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Now, I'll talk about how much I've spent here in just a little bit, but overall, I find that actually a plus in my case. It makes it a little bit less intimidating. It means that I can kind of dive in, and I think that makes it more on them to develop good content, to develop a good community, to keep me engaged rather than some kind of arbitrary subscription fee. The other thing I'm also not getting, which I usually get in non-subscription based MMOs, is a wave of toxicity, where in this case it feels like every engagement, every interaction I've had is on the positive side. Now, yes, negative interactions do exist in these kind of games, and I think essentially we will have a negative interaction at some point and it will undo 100 positive reactions. So I usually try to weigh those as even within any other MMOs that I'm currently playing for what they are, is that hopefully an outlier of an experience that you end up having. So, but that's just been my experience so far. I love my Necromancer minion build. One of the reasons I think I never really stuck with this game in the long run, especially when it originally launched, was I think I picked the wrong class. Now, I don't ultimately know if I will continue to main and live on Necromancer. I want to play and experience the other classes, but I kind of went into this with a mindset of get one class to cap. Let me experience the whole leveling experience. I asked in a video that I posted a month ago, I think, on this channel, talking about like, am I going to hit a wall? Is it going to be the 30s, the 40s, the 60s, where I just feel fatigued by the experience? And I didn't. I think the fact that I went in with a focused mindset of getting to cap on one class and seeing everything this game has to offer, to unlock mounts, to see a lot of the different zones and the design. Yes, there is a loop. Yes, you're doing renown. Yes, you're doing events. Yes, you're doing these things, but in a different place and with either your friends or a different set of community, as the world and the zones themselves being popular or populated ended up giving me this feeling that whether I was playing solo or with friends, that I wasn't alone. And I think that's a huge thing. Also, playing with pets on Necro really kind of really sad. It made me wish they would redo Summoner in Final Fantasy XIV. Like the entire time, if you watch me on stream at all, I'd be like, man, why can't Summoner be this good in Final Fantasy XIV? And I know I talk about 14 a lot. It's just a game that I have a ton of time in, and thus it makes a perfect sense to kind of reference that and for this video. So I did get my mount. I've got my Raptor mount, and it's the first mount that I've got, and it is awesome. I really appreciate the movement and how it interacts with the world. I cannot stress enough just how good that feels, and I'm looking forward to unlocking more mounts. I like that it's kept at level 80. I like that it's a part of that expansion and it doesn't come into play. I was tempted because I already had a level cap character back in the day. I was able to, I think I was like 75, and for whatever reason I was like, all right, I got a jump potion with the expansion purchase. So I just kind of said, all right, I'm going to finish him off. And I was like, you know what? I want to experience this game from start to finish. And so I did that. And I decided not to go get my mount or anything like that, so I could really have kind of as best of a true experience again with this game. And as far as it goes with my other characters, now that I have that mount unlocked, I'm still working on my glider, by the way, that I can go and dive into the core experience and kind of like get them leveled up to really experience the zones and have that experience again, but with a little bit added benefit of that system. I'm not an expert on the mastery system, but I love it, I think. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys up to date on more of those videos, especially as it relates to Guild Wars 2. So my final thoughts as a part of the biggest draws is I have so much more to do. I touched on the mastery system just a second ago. I touched on the fact that I still have all this expansion and all this story to get caught up on. When I was listening to Wood and Potatoes and a couple other content creators talking about how the story in and of itself isn't fully connected, so I can't currently have that full experience based off of how it was developed and how it came to fruition. Not so worried about that. Honestly, at the end of the day, my gameplay is key. Diving into the content is key. I've done some dungeons. I'm looking forward to my next step of getting into fractals and into the strikes. That in and of itself, I think it's going to be really exciting to kind of get into with friends and with the community. And I think the core of it is that we've been streaming Guild Wars 2 on Fridays over at Work to Game, and you can find our link to our Twitch if you're interested in coming hanging out or giving advice as I kind of dive into this new experience. You can come hang out. I think at the end of the day, I have to stream more Guild Wars 2. I have to play this game more. It's going to become a bigger part of just my gameplay as I continue to absolutely adore the experience, both for leveling and even as I dip into the bigger game. It feels like level 80 it wasn't that hard to get to. It felt like a really good experience. I'm not winded. I'm not fatigued by the leveling experience. I thought I would be. So it's really nice to see. Now I'm excited about the like this massive opening of content that I have yet to experience. And so as a new player, this is a really good opportunity, especially if you're looking for something to play while you're waiting for a content drop in your current game or your home MMO to speak. So how much did it cost? How much money have I spent on this game? So I bought both the Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire expansion. I bought the mid tier. I think that's like $50. So if my math's off, forgive me a little bit here. Then I've also spent kind of two different drops on gems. So I've spent $100 on store gems because what I decided to do is I decided to get a couple of the mining tools, the unlimited ones that have really cool effects, because A, I didn't want those things clogging up my inventory, and then B, it's cool. Like, they were on sale. I think, regardless, I'm still kind of learning the gem store, but it was fun. I don't mind throwing that kind of money at the game. And I'm still sitting on a bunch of gems in case I decide, or what I like that they do is they do various sales. So I also bought additional character slots so that I could actually level up each character. There's 9 classes in the game. And so I was like, well, let's go ahead and dive in and play all of them. And that way I can give you guys that experience. I enjoy leveling content. It's relaxing to me. Maybe I'm weird in that regards, but just note that I put out a poll here on the channel. You can always check the community tab for those kind of polls. And if you're subscribed, I think they show up on your feed, but I don't know. But at the core of it, asking what I should level next. Right now, y'all are between Mesmer and Elementalist, so I'll be sure to pick one of those and go nuts. I think those tied the last I looked. I'll have to go double check. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive in and get these leveled up and have that, I guess, magical experience, and then look into the other classes to have those different experiences overall. So my total investment, I estimate right now at $150 of my money that I've spent on this game. And when I look at worth in terms of game, I look at it at $1 per hour. Being that there's no subscription fee, I don't have to feel like I need to get 15 hours of playtime in this game in a month. But at my current pace, I'm doing about 40, 45, 50 a month in the game. So I'm definitely making up for that. We'll see if that continues that pace. I'll keep you guys updated on my experience as I continue into Guild Wars 2. But That being said, I have put in around, I would say, estimate 50 on my Necromancer, so that gives me a gap of 100 hours. Now, I've gone in and spent on a couple of quality lives, bigger bags, more investment, more bag slots, and then I've had the gold, and some of the community has given me some gold. So my experience isn't like a completely, pure experience where like I'm not getting any help and what have you, but that's okay. I just want to kind of let you guys know. I think I was gifted probably around 50 gold, and anybody, you can correct me if you ended up giving me more. I also had some gold that was remaining over from my previous play experiences, the times that I've tried to play this game in the past, and it never connected for me for whatever reason. And so I was able to then, on my Necromancer, I got some nice big 20 bag slots. I got a couple different options there. So I feel like the game throws so much loot at you at all times. It's very exciting every time you log in, every time you're playing. When you do events, sometimes it feels like I'm just getting showered with things. And so having the inventory space to make it to where I'm not constantly doing inventory management has been a huge value to me. And that's kind of where I was like, yeah, it's going to be worth it for me in that regards, especially because when I look at it, I don't think anywhere. I think I'll end up having 200 hours in this game by the end of the summer, 300 hours maybe this year alone. Lots of other big MMOs coming out. I'm not a one game kind of guy. So just if you're just like, I'm here for the Guild Wars 2 content, great. Thanks for coming in. Just note that there's going to be Phantasy Star content, Final Fantasy content, New World content on the channel here in the coming months. And hopefully if you enjoy that or you're curious, you'll check out those videos as well. But that all being said, the core experience is offered to players. So if you're a new player, what would I say? I would say absolutely check out this game. Start with the core experience. See if that's something that works for you rather than having to worry about investing any kind of money into it. If you like the gameplay, which personally that's what is really hooking about the overall game, the jump puzzles, the exploration, the movement, the combat is something that I would say is highly encouraged for you to check out. Beyond that, new players, absolutely. Returning players, depends on why you left. So if you're like me and you kind of just touched the game from time to time in the past, never really got hooked on it, yes, you should absolutely check out this game as a returning player to come and see what's changed, what it's about, see if it's something that you are more interested in. But if you're a player that's like just tired or fatigued of the game itself, play something else. That's always my advice when it comes down to games and game fatigue. Play something else. Take a break. There's a reason why you love this game. There's a reason why you put so much time into this game. And I would venture to bet that if you take some time away from it, you'll end up, when you decide to return, whether it's with the latest expansion that's on the horizon, End of Dragons, or with the Steam release that's set to come out later this year, maybe we'll get some controller support. We'll have to see. And that's one thing I didn't talk about at the beginning of the video. I also invested, and this isn't a cost that I implement to Guild Wars 2 on camera. I got a Tartarus Pro 2, and I also got a Corsair Scimitar MMO mouse, and I've been using that to play Guild Wars 2, and I love the experience. It's truly, I think maybe that's also part of it. I was playing the wrong class, and I kept trying to get this game to work on controller, and yes, I know it's possible to make that happen, but no, it never felt right to me, especially coming from Final Fantasy XI and 14. I felt like they had the control scheme that I was looking for in a more relaxed and comfort level of play. And moving to this model, which I think when I factor the total cost of that, I spent probably another $180. So I don't factor that to the cost of Guild Wars 2, but I do factor it to the cost of my enjoyment. And I want to test that out for other MMOs, especially 14. So just kind of keep that knowledge to, I don't know, yourself. Don't tell anybody in this public video. Yeah, I'm a little bit strange sometimes. I do apologize. All right. But I just want to let you know, really enjoying that experience. Maybe I'll put out reviews on these devices as I think I just need more time with them. At the end of the day, I've seen a couple comments, so you can come hang out on stream and ask me directly. And but I don't feel like I have the expertise yet to speak to these with any level of authority. I just kind of configured the things and kind of went from there. So just note that I'm still feeling it out. I still am just like, I feel like I'm drinking from a fountain sometimes, being as a controller player. Like I could tell you everything about how to set that up. But when it comes to keyboard and mouse, I'm like, maybe there's a more efficient way. And so I'll let my brain kind of get curious and try to decide that for myself. Anyway, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Is Guild Wars 2 worth it? Absolutely. I think this game is phenomenal, and I'm very excited to continue to share that journey, and hopefully you share it with me whether you're here hanging out with us in these videos or if you're hanging out with us on the live stream. It should be a fun and interesting time nonetheless. Sorry for the longer length of this video. There's a lot of thoughts that I wanted to put down and get to you. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments. Say welcome to Guild Wars 2 if you made it to the end of this video. That way I know, and I would be like, boom, you're a legend. Otherwise, I think I'm going to wrap it up. If you guys do have critiques, you got feedback on the video, always open. You can always just let me know. I probably butcher pronunciations of certain things. It's just a fact of being here on Ginger Prime. I'm going to wrap up, guys. Love you faces. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.